Care Services, because there's no place like home.
It is a South Florida Saturday morning, and it's time once again for Limitless Health Horizons, right here on Legends 100.3. Mike McGann here with you as always. And with me, of course, is Andrea Albertini, my dear friend and the co-founder, owner of Horizon Care Services, who, of course, present Limitless Health Horizons. You can learn more by heading on over to horizoncareservices.com. horizoncareservices.com, or by calling 561-776-7757. 561-776-7757. Hi, Andrea. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. Good morning, Mike. You look very fancy with this jacket today. I wish the listeners could see it. I'm going to take a picture and put it on a Facebook page of Legends.
Oh, go for it. You know, there's jackets in me. I
love
have some vice. It's these.
I love it. You got the best.
Oh, thanks.
I did tell Mike to that he's missing his cowboy boots, though.
I do. I've got to get a new pair. You know, something. Then again, here's the trouble. If I get one pair of cowboy boots, I'm going to need the one for my different outfit themes. The black theme, the white theme, the blue or tan theme. I don't know. I get into it. See, those are the decisions that I make that are relatively simple with not a whole lot of real-world ramifications, right?
I guess so, if you would say.
But there are other decisions we have to make that have a whole lot of real-world ramifications, right?
For sure.
Big time. And I know I had to figure out a segue there somehow. But, you know, thinking about this and thinking about Horizon Care Services, right? And the services that Horizon Care Services provide to people who need them, to people who need in-home care. You provide the very best of them. And most people, you know, they understand, you know, what people need when they're being cared for. But the question can sometimes be, who cares for the caregivers? And I think that slips through the cracks a lot, Andrea.
Yes, it does.
You know, my family, basically, we tried for most of the time to be the caregivers to my mom and dad, and eventually had to bring in full-time nursing care in the home, which we were still there a lot, but we didn't realize really the toll that it was taking on us, all the siblings, all of us, really. And I think that it is so often ignored. And I get that. You know, we think about our parents, we think about the people that need that kind of care who can't take care of themselves or aren't physically, mentally, emotionally able to take care of themselves. So we figure, hey, we can do it. We're mentally competent. We're good to go. And then it wears caregivers down. It's a statistic I've mentioned before, that caregivers are statistically far more likely to pass away before the people they're caring for.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a very scary thought.
It really is. So let's talk about the toll that caregiving takes on people who are not professionals, people who think they can do it on their own. It's a devastating toll.
It is, because most of the time, you know, everybody's worrying about, you know, the mom and the dad, right, you know, or the husband or the wife. You know, you not worry about that person that's actually caring for your loved one. And what I see a lot here is that I think is more crucial, that I have seen in my business, we're owning Horizon for 20 years, is married couple. So you have a married couple who are, you know, 10, 20 years older, 30 years older. Right. And most of the time is the male, right? Who's older. Oh, yeah. And she's younger. And, you know, it's the love of her life, or whatever the case may be. And now all of a sudden, you know, she becomes a caregiver. And so everybody's worrying about, you know, the male, the husband.
Sure, it's him, that poor guy.
Oh my God.
He's mentally not there. How hard must it be? What can we do for him? I'm glad you're there to take care of him.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But then she's not getting the help that she needs. You know, forget about just a caregiver, because it's not just a caregiver that they need. They need a caregiver to help her with the activities of daily living for her husband. But that's not what I'm talking about. What about the psychologically
that's
issue?
A big part of it.
It's a big part of it.
You get somebody that you've been with for so much of your life, and the mental stress of that person maybe not knowing who you are, thinking you're someone holding them prisoner, watching that person with things that they used to be able to keep private, and now they can't. Now that's not only something you're privy to, but your responsibility to clean up physically, mentally, emotionally, you know?
Exactly.
You can lose your own sense of identity. So often the people we are with, they're kind of our barometers. They're our anchors.
Right.
And then when that anchor is adrift and you're responsible for keeping that boat in place, you lose your own identity. It's exhausting physically. All of it, the toll can be incalculable.
Absolutely. It's and the worst is when, the patient is in denial.
Right.
That person is completely denial of what's going on. And that's the worst part, because then, as a caregiver, we take personally.
Of course.
You know what
there's
I mean?
an emotional connection there.
Exactly. And it's very, very difficult, because it's always a battle. And then again, I hope that person who is a caregiver, the younger wife, is getting help and talking to somebody.
But so many don't, because where is the time to do that? They've got all their time dealing with the person they are caring for at their own expense. And when you're trying to do that on your own, there is literally no time to take a step back and go talk to someone else. There's no time to take a step back, deal with your own mental health, rest, relax, take care of your physical health. The time is gone. It's brutal.
Yeah, it is. Very difficult.
And let's talk a bit about, is there help for this? What's going on around this? I mean, I know that Horizon Care Services obviously can provide people that can be there to help to carry that load, because you need it so badly.
Right. And you remember, we always talk about, Guiding Care Management.
Oh, yeah.
Care Management.
Well, Hope was with us last week, and she's back today. Hi, Hope.
Great to be back. How are you doing, Mike?
We love having you here. It's always good to have you.
We love it. We love
really
it.
do.
And one of the things that, Hope is going to explain more is, that's when Hope come in. That's when
literally and figuratively.
yeah. With the group, the group Guiding Care Command
Yeah.
is to, and we talked about this before, is that puzzle. And the puzzles are missing. There's missing pieces.
Oh, yeah.
And then she can probably explain more, Hope, of what I'm trying to get when it comes to what the action would be to assist those people.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about that, Hope, because the challenge is faced by the caregivers. It's a huge mountain. Let's talk about some of those challenges and some of the help they need.
Sure, absolutely. So, and I appreciate this opportunity, because the caregiver is often forgotten.
Yep.
And, I want to make sure that people understand, without the caregivers, unfortunately, a lot of these clients, patients would not have gotten to the point that they are.
Right.
But indeed it does, and studies do show that the caregivers, it really takes a toll on their health.
Yes.
So what we do, when we assess someone, the caregiver is right at the center of that. And so part of what we provide is service, support, advocacy, counseling, resources for the caregivers. And maybe some people don't realize that. And you just talked about time.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we can really save the caregivers is, finding out, okay, well, what's taking your time? What's stressing you out? Because let's face it, when you get stressed, how clearly can you think?
That's a good point. And then the care that you're trying to give the person that you love, that's going to suffer too.
Correct. I mean, high levels of stress and high levels of fatigue, studies have shown have the same effect on your brain, your problem solving, as maybe some, taking different drugs that you might take or take too much of or not enough, or serious illness. I mean, the brain gets affected by all this. So just, something simple, did I take the person to get a shower 3 times this week?
Right.
Take the higher level functions. Okay, do they have long-term care insurance? Did I pay the bills? Did I get the groceries? All those logistical things start falling by the wayside. As you said, what happens is the caregiver just gets behind further and further with their own health. And, there's a reason why when you're on an airplane, before you take off, the flight attendants tell you, should the oxygen mask drop, please put it on yourself before you help someone else. Right. There's a reason for that, because gosh darn it, if you're passed out from lack of oxygen, how can you possibly help someone else?
Right.
And so a lot of times people think that's selfish. It's really not. It's not just self-preservation. If you really love that person you're trying to care for, you have to take care of yourself. And we have those resources to help you do that.
If you're trying to carry them, you got to make sure that you're not going to drop them, and you can't drop on your own. What are some of the things that you see, Hope, in caregivers, the ones who have taken on too much? What are some of the pathologies and issues you see them suffering from? And I see she's shaking her head right now because I know there's so many of them. But let's talk about the toll on caregivers that you have seen.
Sure. So a lot of emotions they go through. Anger, guilt,
Oh, the guilt at the
depression.
anger, too. You get frustrated with the person you're caring for, and you get mad at yourself for feeling that. What a cycle that is.
It is, and
Yeah.
it's tough. And we help talk people through that. And certainly, if they need, some of our team are social workers and some are
Right.
licensed. But our rule is really not to do the in-depth counseling.
Sure.
That's more conversational and supportive. If someone needs professional counseling, we can certainly provide them with those resources.
Right.
A lot of times, honestly, it's about the time, Mike. And I want to go back to that because that's important.
It is.
Because people have this guilt. I can't go do something for myself. I can't go get groceries. Who's going to stay with them? And unfortunately, sometimes we find that they're leaving someone at home that, oh my goodness, is not safe to be at home.
Oh, and that's a big thing right there. I mean, and again, it feels like a catch-22 in that case.
Right. So what we can do is through the advocacy, through a lot of education, which is a big part of what we do, helping that caregiver understand all their feelings, their thoughts, every emotion, including the anger and the sadness, are totally normal and they're okay, and giving them that validation and that support. Sometimes we actually help them with bringing somebody in just a few hours a week, even if it's something they, quote, have to do, like get the groceries or something.
Right.
But there are also, Mike, a lot of support groups out there for different types of situations that we can connect the caregiver with and get them out of the house for that period of time. A lot of times there's resistance to that, but having attended some of those support groups, I can tell you that most people eventually start opening up to each other because they see some similarities in their situations.
Right.
And they realize that they're not alone and that their feelings are legitimate and they're okay. And actually, it makes them better caregivers when they return home.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm
Makes a lot
thinking
of
about
sense.
things that I've seen. Like I knew a man who was taking care of his wife. She had some physical issues. There were no mental issues for either one of them yet, but they were getting up there in years. And she was on a whole lot of medications. Well, his vision was not what it used to be. And she had so many meds, and some had to be this many this day, this many that day. He would be getting her meds ready, and then he didn't admit it for years, but he was living in terror that he would put the wrong one in somewhere, that he would hurt his wife by accident when he was just trying to do the right thing. And, she had no way of knowing that because he didn't want her to know because it might stress her out. So he's carrying all of this extra weight of trying to do her medication management when he could barely take care of his own stuff. And he was doing it because he loved her the way he did. And she loved him it was this amazing kind of a cycle.
It is.
And the psychological toll it took on him was amazing. I mean, I remember just when finally somebody came in to help out, their relationship got so much stronger because then they could be on the couch watching reruns of Magnum together, which they loved, while somebody else handled it.
That's right.
But he did not even really grasp the effect it was having on him. And there was somebody else I knew who, her husband was older. It's the classic case you were talking about, Andrea. Mm-hmm. He was older. He thought that his wife was like a jailer. And he, at one point, stood behind a door with like the cardboard tube from the middle of wrapping paper, to ambush her with, so he could escape the jail he thought he was being held in. And so with her, it's, am I treating him that badly? He thinks he's a prisoner. No, she wasn't understanding his thought process. She was tired. The toll that it took on both of these stories, and these are people that loved their spouses with everything they had, And the spouse in that case could not understand the situation and didn't understand the psychological toll it was taking.
Yeah, I mean, usually when in cases like that, it's because the person has, early stage of dementia.
Right.
Or
in that
full
case,
dementia.
it was pretty advanced. But
yeah.
She was just trying to take care of him and not knowing how deeply she was getting in.
That's even harder. So I'm glad you talk about that.
Yeah.
Because we find a lot of people in that position who still have their loved ones at home with Alzheimer's.
Right.
They think that they can take care of them. Mm-hmm. There are facilities out there. There's communities, beautiful memory care communities around. Some of them so good, not so good, but some of them very nice and very good.
Sure.
That they would probably be better off being there, and you can just go visit and spend quality time.
Sure.
And that's one of the things that we do, Mike, is, when we go in and meet with the client and the family, is look at what are the options, what is needed here. And some people do very well in assisted living and memory care
Yeah,
communities.
absolutely.
Some people do better at home. So it's looking at the whole picture. It's not just financial, it's personality and what is their history. Are they more social? Are they more introverted? For some people, we spoke the first time we were here about, some people are more musical. Music is a big part of my life.
Sure.
Is it aromatherapy? Is it art? Is it pets? Whatever the case may be, is finding out what does that person need. And I think a lot of it is really the education. The cases that you talked about, those are sad to me, but we see these all the time.
We see them all the time.
People don't realize, oh my gosh, can I hire somebody just to come in and do a med fill? Oh my gosh, my husband, our regular doctor said he's got Alzheimer's, but has he seen a neurologist? Because there are potentially things that could be done, whether it's medications, whether it's different types of therapy. And sometimes people don't realize that. They think, this is my diagnosis, this is what I have to live with. And that's just not true.
And also, I don't know, but social media also seems to me to be an issue with this, because everybody puts all these beautiful fronts on things all the time. I'm taking care of mom and it's beautiful. Well, someone who's taking care of their mom and it's not quite as beautiful is thinking, what am I doing wrong? They have this, they don't, everything puts such a good face on things. People don't realize that what they're going through is very normal when they're a caretaker. That is how it goes. And then you add things like, we'll take, for instance, the situation earlier, the ambushing, trying to stop the jailer, the mental toll that takes. And the person who's thinking they're in prison legit thinks that. They don't realize that it's causing this take. So it snowballs. The mental stress can come from someone not knowing they're doing anything wrong, at the mercy of some kind of mental illness, and causing havoc to the person they love.
And it takes a while for their, for the loved ones to make a decision, because
very hard.
The denial is a big part of it.
It's huge.
The denial is a big part of it, and from both sides, from the person who has the problem and from the caregiver.
Yeah.
And then you go into the legal issues that we talked about when Kelly was here.
So many.
That the law doesn't protect the spouse under this condition, under this position. And then talk about Medicaid planning. If that person needs to go in, if it's a low-income person that needs to go into a nursing home, a lockdown facility, memory care, then what? So there's just so much, so many things that needs to be put together.
Well, it's that puzzle you mentioned earlier.
The puzzle.
It's a big puzzle.
Right.
There's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. And when you're like standing in the middle of that puzzle, and it's a puzzle as big as this one, you can't see what the edges are like. Where do you even start?
No, and I'm glad that you both brought that up, because a lot of what we do is health care related, physical health care, but a lot of it is psychological and mental health also.
Yeah, it's huge.
We can also, refer people to bookkeepers, to accounting firms. Gosh darn it, sometimes we deliver theater tickets.
Right.
If it's hard for the family or the client to get those, I've delivered theater tickets to people.
Wow.
So it's really, what do they need? And if they are financially challenged, we can point them in the right direction. I actually was a long-term care Medicaid waiver case manager, so I just happen to know a little bit more maybe than the average person about that program. I can point them in that direction. We connect people with elder law attorneys. I mean, pretty much from soup to nuts, Mike, whatever they need, we can point them in the right direction, hold their hands. And sometimes what we do is short term, and sometimes it's long term. Sometimes we see people every week. Sometimes I see them once a quarter.
Right.
It's totally customized to what they need. And that's the beauty of it.
And you just brought up an interesting point, and this is a fascinating one. We talked so much, a lot of this has been talking about the psychological issues on this, which are incredibly important. And you can get so focused on those that the practical issues, the bookkeeping, the paying of bills can just simply slip through and be forgotten. You're trying to remind this person, which is a fruitless, Sisyphean type of a thing, where you're trying to say, look, no, this is what your name is, and this is what year it is, and desperately trying to bring them back into your world, which is not going to happen anyway. And while you're doing that and dealing with all of that, you're forgetting to pay power.
Yeah.
And it's too much for one person.
It is. And sometimes, usually the male is the one who does everything. Take care of who's the pool guy, who's the gardener.
Right?
Everything.
And they forget to tell you that. They're not capable. They think they have it handled. They think it's 2 years ago and they've already made that call.
Yeah.
You're so right about that. And you get people that then, ones that are, say, painkiller dependent, or they're on different medicines that they cannot get off of. Yeah,
that's
and
another
that affects
topic.
their thinking too. That's a big one.
That's another topic that we got to talk about. That's which happens a lot.
I've seen it happen over. When I was a financial advisor, I used to see it.
A lot. And it's sad because sometimes, they're all elderly and the doctors just, hey, take this one, take this one, take that one. It's tough. It's just tough. And then people get addicted to it. And alcoholism is one of the biggest for us.
As someone who
women
is,
in
me,
there.
I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I've always been very open about that. I cannot imagine what life with, 13 years ago me would have been like for someone that was trying to take care of me.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing the way you're saying.
You can see I'm picturing this with horror.
I know, I can see your face.
I'm thinking about if there was somebody that loved me somehow in spite of all this, right?
Yeah.
And was trying to take care of me when I was that guy. And the mental faculties where they might have been by then, I just cannot even imagine the pain I'd be causing somebody.
Well, you
And the
guys
help
are
that they
talking
would
about
need.
this, and I'm picturing literally like 1,000-piece puzzle
Yeah,
instead
it's
of
what
a
it- right.
30.
Huge.
Because honestly, and I know Andrea can speak to this, most of our clients, Mike, they do have some substance issue. There
yeah.
might be chain smokers, they might be alcoholics,
Yep.
sometimes they're both.
Yeah.
There might be other drugs involved. And so it's, all right, telling the child, all right, so your mom is still drinking the vodka, and I found the bottle this big that's empty again.
Right.
And P.S., I'm not going to replace it, but I'm letting you know it's empty. She's still drinking,
Right.
But it's looking at all of it. You're absolutely right. Clients like that think they paid the bills, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So I've also set up exterminators for people.
Oh,
they
yeah.
don't think there's termites. They can see the termites, but again, it's sad. There's a lot of cognitive deficits,
Of
and
course.
different
And
forms
substances
of
don't
dementia.
help with cognitive decline. I mean,
No,
it's,
they don't.
It's really wild how those
No,
two
they
things work
don't.
together.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really about getting the whole picture, and but again, not just helping the client, but what does the family need? Who is the main support person?
And that's the thing is we're not sitting here just trying to do a big doom and gloom thing. It's just this is the reality of it, but the reality of it also is that there's help for this.
Exactly.
And that's where
and that's
Guiding Care
what we're
Services
trying
comes
yeah.
in, and that's where guiding care comes in, is that that help is there for the people who need it, and the caregivers need the help to provide the help, and that's where it comes in. That's where those products and services and having the right people who can customize this, who understand the big picture, who know what you are going through. There's a gentleman that I remember I did an interview with years ago. It was Marty Schreiber. And he had been, I want to say he was Lieutenant Governor of Vermont. Marty, if you're listening and I get that wrong, I apologize. But he had written a book about it because he was his wife's caregiver when she developed Alzheimer's. And I remember he had a conversation where he had to realize at some point that he had to live in her world because she was not coming back to his. And he said that he was having lunch with her one time, and she made the comment, she started to cry during lunch. And he said, "What's wrong?" And she said to him, "I'm starting to love you more than I love my husband." And he said at first he just wanted to cry because he'd been her husband for all these years. And he had to train himself to think, okay, you know what? I have to realize that in her world now, I'm a good enough guy that she's falling in love with me. She's a different woman now.
I love the concept. It's
And
cute.
the book he wrote
Aw.
was called My Two Elaines. And it was about, and it's a wonderful book, a beautiful book, but realizing that, and what it took him in terms of mental toughness to learn that. But how hard is that for people when they're overtired, exhausted, they don't have the help to be able to make that mental leap?
Yeah.
You need the help to give yourself time to deal with these things so you can provide that help and maintain whatever kind of a relationship you can with your loved one. That's where the help from Horizon Care comes in. That's where the help from Guiding Care comes in. Reach out. You need it, whether you know you need it or not, because you will.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, for sure. But that's a wonderful book. I got to look into it.
It is. I'll lend you my copy because I've got it. But understanding that's something none of us would ever consider, really. And it takes the time to understand that you are under as much stress as the person you are trying to care for. The person you're trying to care for, they're not going to be able to understand how much stress you're under because you're putting on a good face for them. So they may not affect it. And that's even if they're cognitively capable of it, if there's not a dementia and or a substance abuse issue happening. You put all that together, it's a perfect storm. You need the help to weather that storm.
Absolutely. And the worst thing is sometimes even if they are cognitive,
Right.
they still in denial
Yeah.
and they do everything to kind of make your life worse sometimes.
And that happens. And a lot of that is because there's frustration with themselves. I can't do this. You know what I mean? There's a lot of
Yeah.
self-hate that comes in on this among people that need care. And, but you need the help to provide the help, and really reach out to Horizon Care Services. HorizonCareServices.com. 561-776-7757 is their number. The time's flying by. Just a couple of minutes left. Hope, how can people reach out to you?
Well, all they have to do is check out our website, which is guidingcarefl.com. And, we're happy to speak with you and talk to you about your situation and see if this is something that we can assist you with and point you in the right direction.
It's so important. Guidingcarefl.com. And of course, Andrea, I know that with Horizon Care Services, what you offer is and it's a tough topic. I mean, I'm sitting here having this conversation with two of my favorite people in the world, and my heart rate's up. Thinking about these things. It's stressful.
Well, you have been there.
I have been there.
I'm there.
Yeah, you're there, and we've got, there's so many different things. I mean, you need the help. The help is there. Reach out. It's the honorable thing to do. It's sometimes the hardest thing to do is to let go of something and reach out to what you need. And that's where this care comes in. Horizon Care Services is comprehensive. They have resources like Guiding Care they can put you in touch with when you need it. Looking for assisted living, memory care, providing that in-home care that Horizon Care Services is the best in the biz at. But it starts with reaching out, knowing you need that help, and visiting that website or making that call. HorizonCareServices.com or 561-776-7757. I mean, we call it Limitless Health Horizons for a reason, but part of it is I know you could have a limitless questions. It can be a limitless pool you can feel like you're drowning in, but they've got limitless help for you, and that's what it's all about.
And I love that we can educate our community.
It's
in
so
anything
necessary.
and everything that's available out there.
Yeah.
So next week we're starting a hospital segment.
Oh, good.
So we're going to have a wonderful case manager,
Okay.
Christine, coming in our show and talk about anything and everything about hospitals and discharge planning and resources and all sort of things. So we're excited about that.
It really is. It's going to be a great conversation to have. Hope, as always, thank you for your time and for what you do and who you are.
Thank you. Appreciate being here, Mike.
Of course. And you can also give Guiding Care Concierge Care Management a call at 954-592-6032. That's 954-592-6032. And that website, again, is guidingcarefl.com. Andrea, I mean, it's Horizon Care Services. They're the best. I know that, like you say, and it's such an important thing to say, man, you've got to wake up in the morning, be able to look in the mirror and know you're doing the right thing. And you do the right thing by the patients and by people who need help as caregivers. It's what you do, and you do it better than anybody.
I love it.
I know you do. It's why you've been doing it for 20 years and why you've still got, the vast majority of your staff with you. Learn more about it. Head over to HorizonCareServices.com or call 561-776-7757. And make sure you tune in again next week for another edition of Limitless Health Horizons on Legends Radio. Ladies, thank you. And thank you for listening. Lots more on the way on our Saturday morning.
Horizon Care Services, because there's no place like home.